What's up, guys? It's your boy Dark Sage back with another video, and today we're finna be doing What If Gravity Was Deku's Plaything, Part 1. No, Part 2 of Part 1. Yeah, there we go. But, yeah, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, because, it'll help a young dude out. But we won't talk about that. So, yeah, let's get into the video. We see Deku sitting in class as Momo, Mina, Aizawa, and Kirishima will walk up to him. Izuku, are you alright? Why wouldn't I be alright? I'm perfectly fine. It's not like my mother's dead or anything. As they would all look away, as Bakugo would still have a ignorant smirk on his face. As they would say, Aizawa would say, Izuku, I've contacted Nezu, and Nezu thought that it would be best if you would just stay in Class 1B, seeing that, you're quirkless. He didn't want you to be put through any more hardships than you've already been through. As Izuku would smile, as he'd say, hardships? oh, I promise you I'm gonna get my revenge. Oh, and by the way, I'm not quirkless. As Deku would look at Aizawa as he would start to make him float. As Ochako would see this and she'd say, wait, does he have the same ability as me? When did he get his quirk? As everybody would be looking at Izuku shocked, as Izuku would say, yeah, I kinda unlocked a power. It's not a quirk. It's different. It's way stronger. It was granted upon me by a spirit. A very nice spirit that I owe my life to. Because if it wasn't for him, I'd be dead. As Izuku would just shoot a glance at Bakugo. As he would then say, oh, and no, it's not like Uraraka's quirk at all. Unlike her, I can actually control pretty much anything with my gravity, including other elements. As they would say, wait, so you can use the elements with gravity? As Izuku would say, yeah, pretty much. As he'd say, and this is what I'm gonna use to kill the bastards that killed and raped my mother. As an immense, and I do mean fucking immense, amount of bloodlust would come off of Deku, as it would all be directed at, Bakugo. As Bakugo would fall out of his chair and start to breathe heavily. As Deku would say, what's wrong, Bakugo? Are you alright? Kachan? What's wrong? As Deku would be smiling. As everybody would sense that something was obviously wrong with this. Of course, nobody knows who killed Izuku's mother, but he knows, and he's out for blood. This nigga, he finna dominate they ass. But yeah, Izuku would be smiling at Bakugo, who would be on the ground, damn near dying. Weak ass. He'd be, he'd have trouble breathing as he'd be coughing. As Deku would say, you good? Shit. Look like you've seen a ghost. As Bakugo would say, shut up, you damn nerd. As Izuku would just smile, as he'd laugh it off, and, he'd ask Aizawa to continue with his lesson. As Aizawa would say, alright then. Today, we will be participating in, the USJ. No. Matter of fact, yeah, they'll go to the USJ. He says, we will be participating in the USJ. As everybody would say, what's the USJ? Aizawa would say, this is where you guys will be training on your quirks and trying to use more or use another what's the word I'm looking for? Mm, technique. You will be trying to develop more techniques than you already have. This will be good hero training, and it'll have a bunch of terrains that, well, you can use to train. Bars, hold on. Yeah, that was kind of barry. I won't even cap. As they would all cheer except for, well, Deku, who would be just leaning back in his chair as Bakugo would be scowling at him, along with a few others that I won't name at the moment. But yeah, Deku would then, well, along with Class 1A, get their hero costumes as they would load up the bus and they'd be on their way. Once they got to the USJ, they'd meet up with 13, who would show them around the place. Until Kirishima would say, did you guys also have fake villains? As 13 would look at Kirishima and say, wait, what? Fake villains? What the fuck he talking about? As she would turn around, or he, whatever they are, they would turn around as they'd see a black ass portal open up. As 13 would say, oh shit, those are real villains. As Aizawa would jump down, but before he would jump down, he'd tell Ida to run back and get All Might and the rest of the heroes. As Ida would do so, taking off. As Aizawa would, well, jump down, as he'd give these niggas the work. He running up on all the villains, boxing they shits, until he'd fatefully meet Toga. Toga got with his ass. She put that nigga in his place. He tried erasing her quirk, but he couldn't erase her acrobatics. She flipped all over his shit, cutting his shit. That nigga's down. Nah, he not down, but he just struggling. But this is when Izuku, oh Izuku, he'd smile because he could sense something with a good amount of power that he could test a new ability on. As he'd look at Shigaraki, as Shigaraki would be smiling with a fat ass hand on his face, as he'd say, Nomu, come teach these brats a lesson. As the Nomu would come out of the portal, as it would rush at a few of the children. But before it could attack anybody, Deku would say, damn beast, sit down, you bitch. As Deku would throw a purple sphere at the Nomu. As it fall, as Deku would just laugh. Weak ass motherfucker. As he'd run up to the Nomu and kick it directly in the head, putting an immense amount of gravity onto his foot, exploding, and I do mean like his whole foot went through the Nomu's head, forcing the Nomu to basically die. That nigga would, well, destroy its brain, killing it instantly. As Shigaraki would say, what the fuck? Did this nigga just kill a Nomu? Who is this brat? As Deku would turn around. I'm your murderer. As Deku would appear behind Shigaraki so quickly that not even Kirigiri could get him out of there in time. As Deku would stick his hand straight through Shigaraki's stomach as he'd tear to the side, as he'd say, you're not as strong as I thought you were. Aren't you supposed to be the boss of these bastards? As Deku would say, you're getting in my way. And I really, really don't like that. As he kicked Shigaraki in the side that he had just cut open, as Shigaraki would scream in pain. Kirigiri would try to get him out, but, well, Deku would send an immense force of gravity towards Kirigiri, sending him straight to the ground. This is when Deku would sense an immense amount of heat, as he'd look back and he'd see blue flames coming from every direction at him. Deku would smile, as he'd say, you look like Endeavor's kid. Wait until he finds out. Fucking bastard. As Before the flames could touch Deku, well, he put an immense amount of gravity onto himself, damn near crushing him, sending him straight through the ground. As Deku would evade the flames that were coming at him, Deku would then pop up behind Dabi, as Dabi would turn around, sending a flame kick towards Deku. But Deku would just catch this, and he'd take his elbow as he'd break Dabi's leg, his left leg to be specific, as Dabi would scream out in pain, "Ugh, you fucking bastard! I'm gonna kill you!" As Dabi would continue to shoot flames at Deku. Mind you, all of the children are watching this. They're watching Deku single-handedly box all of them, and they're in shock. They're amazed. They're astounded. Uraraka is like, maybe he's not such a loser. Maybe I should get with him. But that won't work. As we now come back to Deku's perspective. As well, where was I? Oh yes. Dabi would still be shooting flames at Izuku, but Izuku would be dodging these easily as he would come closer to Dabi as he'd kick him in the same leg that he just broke, as Dabi would fall to the ground screaming. As Deku would then make a rectangle of glowing purple energy, as Deku would take out his sword, as he'd infuse the purple energy into his sword. As Deku would say, "This is gonna hurt like hell." As Deku would stab Dabi straight through the stomach, as he'd say, "Release." As the purple energy would go into, well, Dabi's organs and insides, pretty much, as they would basically start mixing this nigga's insides, as Dabi would throw up loads of blood, as he'd say, "Please stop. I'm sorry." As Deku would say, "I don't take pity. I don't show mercy anymore. I kill just for the fun of it. And any bastard that steps in my way of my goal to kill the bastards that killed my mother, they'll pay dearly." As Deku would then kick his sword at Dabi's head, piercing it. He'd pierce Dabi straight through the brain, killing him instantly, Nomu style. Then Deku would walk over to the Shigaraki that was still wincing in pain, as he'd grab him by his throat, as he'd say, "So, you have no hope of escaping? Should I kill you?" As Deku would think to himself, "Nah, it wouldn't be worth it." As he'd kick Shigaraki away and say, "Go tell your master about me. And by the way, tell him if he wants to find me. Nah, I don't think he's ready for that. Just tell him, if I see him, I'll kill him. And that's a promise." As Deku would start to walk away, as he would release the pressure that he was holding on, Kirigiri, as Kirigiri would get up, as he'd immediately rush Shigaraki and the rest of the villains out of there. And once this was done, Deku went back to Class 1A as he'd say, "Where's Ida? Shouldn't he have been here by now?" And exactly when he said this, Ida would have burst through the door along with a lot of other heroes, as they'd have said, "Where are the villains?" As Deku would have just smiled. "I took care of them already." As the teachers would see All Might. I mean, not All Might. They'd see fucking Izuku. As they'd say, aren't you the quirkless brat?" As Deku would say, "Actually, yeah, I am quirkless, but that doesn't mean I don't have power." As Deku would send, well, a pressure towards them, as they could feel this, and they knew that it was a lot more where that fucking came from, as they would instantly shut the fuck up, as All Might would be looking at Deku confused, as he'd think to himself, how did he get this power? This boy, where'd he get his quirk from? His mind would, well, you already know, it immediately go towards fucking All For One. As Deku would say, oh, and All Might, if you're thinking about All For One, I recommend you stop it. I actually just killed a few of his dear subordinates, so I'd advise you to stop thinking about me working with that bastard. Oh, and by the way, All Might, I know who killed my mother. And well, just to tell you, it's not like you can stop me, so I'll tell you. I'm gonna kill him, his goons, and his mom. And if you even think about getting in my way, All Might, I'll give you an early retirement. As Deku would shoot bloodlust towards All Might, making him drop to his knees. As Deku would just leave the USJ smiling and laughing. It feels amazing to be strong. As once Deku would, well, walk back to his dorms, he was awaited by a visitor. This girl. She was sitting half naked in his bed. As Deku would say, what the hell? As he'd see the young girl, as he'd say, who are you? As the girl would turn around and she'd say, huh? Where am I? As the girl would stand up, as she'd reveal what's a word? You know what? Fuck it. She'd reveal her titties, as Deku, his nose would start to bleed almost immediately. Fucking pervert. As the girl would say, huh? So you're a perv. As she would put back on her top. As Izuku would say, shut up, I'm no perv. As he'd be wiping away the blood that was at his nose. She'd then say, well, yes you are. You just caught a nosebleed once you saw my tits. Doesn't matter. I guess all men are pervs, aren't they? As Deku would say, I'm not a perv. As the girl would say, fine, whatever you say. As Deku would say, now who are you? As the girl would look at Deku, as she'd say, huh? Oh, I'm sorry, it's rude of me to just appear here and not introduce myself. I'm Star, and I'm a goddess. As Deku would say, a goddess? A goddess of what? Electricity. I'm Zeus's niece. Or, yeah, nah, I'll make her his granddaughter. I'm Zeus's granddaughter. As Deku would say, wait, so you're the granddaughter of Zeus? Then how the hell did you get down here? And aren't gods just myths? As she'd say, actually, no, they aren't. And I was sent here because, well, my grandpa kind of got a little tired of me messing up. As Deku would say, what do you mean by messing up? Well, my electricity, it's too strong for me to use at this moment. Especially because I need some more training. But when I do use it, I end up shocking people that I don't mean to shock. And I can recall a few times that I have shocked my grandpa. As we now go back into a flashback, as we can see Star working with her grandfather, as Zeus would be saying, now breathe. Breathe slowly. And feel the electricity run throughout your body. As Star would start to breathe, she could feel it. But almost immediately, she would lose control. As sparks would go everywhere, and a bolt of electricity would hit Zeus. As Zeus would then, well, get up after he'd been knocked on his ass. As his hair would be standing up. And he'd looked pissed. as he'd say, "All right, yeah, you gotta go. You need some time off." As Zeus would just tap her on her head, and well, now she's on Izuku's bed. Oh my god, I got bars. I know y'all heard the head, bed, bars. Like, come on now. As well, now we go back to the present day. As Izuku would be saying, "Huh? So that makes sense, I guess." So wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Hold on. Why are you in my room? How did you just spawn here? And she'd say, "I don't know. Guess my location was just random, and I ended up here." As Deku would say, alright, but, you kinda gotta go." As Star would say, where? I don't know anyone or anything here. So what am I supposed to do? As Deku would just sigh as he'd say, fuck it. Alright, I guess she'll be staying with me for the time being. As Deku would give her some better clothes suited for Earth. And she couldn't just be walking around in, uh, fucking, I don't even know what to call that, a fucking bra? I don't know. But, she couldn't just walk around in that. So Deku would give her a jacket as she would throw this on and, well, she'd leave the school with Deku, as still nobody was there, seeing that they were all still at the USJ. As Deku and her, well, he'd have given her a tour, as they'd have been all throughout the city, and for that day, that's basically what they would have been doing. Deku would have taken her to all types of shops. They'd have had fun, and they'd have started bonding. Deku, well, he'd have liked the girl. Not like, well, yeah, it's semi. Like, just after meeting her, he had semi feelings. As he would shove that to the back of his brain, as he'd say, "Star, so, is it cool if you stay with me? I really wouldn't want to put you in a room, because you probably would mess a lot of things up, no offense." As Star would say, "None taken," and yeah, it's cool. I mean, I don't have a problem with staying with you. Won't the people at your school have a problem with it? As Deku would say, yeah, they might. But it doesn't matter. It's not like those bastards are strong enough to stop me. So, I'll just fight them off if, well, they defy me or anything." As Star would just snicker a little bit. As Deku would say, "What's so funny?" Star would say, "So, you just resort to violence every chance you get, huh?" As Deku would say, "Shut up." As Star would just smile and laugh. As Deku would have a grin on his face. As they would walk back to the dorms, and when they got there, Izuku would open the door, and fucking Bakugo, well, he wouldn't be too pleased about Izuku knowing, well, he killed his fucking mom. Plus, Izuku put a threat on his mom. And so, I mean, he really wasn't fucking with Izuku. He was trying to knock him off. He said this nigga knows he said he knows about my plan to kill his mom. Shit. We gotta get this nigga out the cut. So he basically ran up on Izuku as soon as he opened the door, but Deku, being the psychopath he is, this nigga was not playing. He wants Bakugo dead, but he's not gonna do it now. He's gonna wait. Oh, yes, he's gonna wait. His revenge will be sweet. As Deku would look at Bakugo as he'd summon his sword, as he'd say, "I'm gonna kill you." As he'd rush at Bakugo, as he cut Bakugo's leg, causing him to fall, as Deku would stomp on the cut, as he'd take his sword and he'd pierce Bakugo's hand. Well, basically, sticking him to the ground. And once he did this, Deku would get on top of Bakugo. No homo father. homophobes out there, is once he got on top of Bakugo, he would start pummeling his shit. Left, right, deluxe combo. This nigga got hit with the fucking Mack Truck Deluxe. Respectfully. And fucking Bakugo was coughing up blood and shit. Teeth were flying out of his mouth as Deku would then get up off of Bakugo as he'd spit on him. As he'd say, well then, come on, Star. I don't think we should be around this fucking loser any more than we already have been. The Star would just smirk as she'd say, alright. As they'd go back to Deku's room, as Izuku would be pretty tired, as he'd crawl into his bed, and, well, him and Star would share the same bed that night. Well, they'd fall asleep. A few hours later, Deku's sleeping restless as he turns over as he can see Star sleeping peacefully. Deku would basically be groggy as shit as he would think Star was, I don't know, some type of stuffed animal. As Deku would get closer to Star, as he'd basically grab her, basically. He'd basically be hugging her in the bed. Shit. As Star would feel this contact, but she wouldn't resist. As she'd lie there in Izuku's arms, as they'd both be sleeping together like a fucking cute couple. But yeah, once they woke up, Izuku would see that Star was in his arms. Oh, and by the way, just cause I'll say they're 15. Yeah. No. Star's like no, fuck that. They're Deku's 15, Star's 16. Why not? So they're both at that they're both at that like puberty stage. No, them hormones kicking in and shit. As Deku would wake up with a little something in his pants as we won't talk about that, but Star could feel it poking up against her as well she'd blush as Deku would immediately let go of her as he'd back up and say, sorry. As Star would say, no, it's alright. It's alright. It was kind of pleasant if I do say so myself. And that thing you have in your pants is kind of big. As Deku would blush. This nigga's whole face would be red as a tomato. As Star would just smile and laugh. As Deku would say, some tease. As he'd get off of his bed, as he'd get changed. No. He'd take a shower, then get changed. As him and Star would come out of the same room. As Ochako would be passing by. And she'd see Deku as she'd walk over and say, Izuku, would you like to go on a date with me? Deku would stick his hand up as he'd grab this bitch face and he'd throw her into the wall. And nigga would say, bitch, you did not care about me like a smooth 5 days ago. Now you're on my tip. Back up. As him and Star would have kept walking, as Ochako would have had her face completely embezzled into the steel wall that was in their way. As Deku would have eaten breakfast with Star as they would have went to class. Once they fucking wait. I do the sports festival. Yeah. I'll get to the sports festival and it'll be a pretty in-depth sports festival. I'll actually describe it. It's gonna be interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm probably gonna stop after that, seeing that I'm tired. But yeah, it's a pretty short video. Sorry guys. But yeah. Once they got to class, well, Aizawa would pop up. He'd get out of his sleeping bag saying, "Oh, these damn kids! I swear, can't ever get no sleep." As Deku would, well, He'd just smirk. His Star would, well, she'd be sitting on Deku's lap, much to the surprise of everybody, but nobody would, well, really say anything because they were too shy to at the moment. Aizawa would look at this and he'd say, "Oh God, you know what? I don't even have like the energy to like scold y'all. So do what y'all do." As he'd say, "All right, today we're gonna be, well, y'all are gonna be participating in the sports festival." As everybody would cheer except for Deku and Bakugo, saying that, well, Deku was fucking psycho and Bakugo was a bitch. As fuck. As once Aizawa pretty much explained this, a few hours would go by as Deku would explain to Star that she wasn't enrolled at the school yet, so she'd have to stay up in the stands. As Star would just nod her head as she'd say, "I hope you win." As Izuku would say, "Hold on, hold on, hold on, y'all, hold on, y'all. I got a pretty big problem to handle." Alright, guys, I'm back. I just had to handle some things. But, yeah. Izuku, well, he'd explain to Star that she'd have to sit in the stands as she'd nod her head yes, as she'd say, "Well, I hope you win." As she'd walk up to Izuku and in front of everybody, she'd kiss this nigga. As Izuku's whole fucking face would go red. As, well, Kirishima would be basically like, "That's my nigga. That's my nigga getting these hoes, I swear." Taught that nigga everything he know. As Star would have pulled away from the kiss, as Deku basically would have had a nosebleed as he'd have fell to the ground. After, well, Izuku had gotten up, it was about time that they started the race. And everybody would have lined up as Deku would say, "Huh, so, they think they can beat me, do they?" As when President Mike said go, Izuku immediately sent a forceful fucking blast of gravity towards everybody, sending them straight to the ground. Todoroki tried to blast these niggas with ice. No, none of that. They fell straight to the ground, unable to do anything. And once they did this, Deku basically got the head start. And nigga dipped. And once he passed the mines, like peacefully, that nigga passed the mines, no trouble at all. He released the gravity as everybody would then get up as they'd say, "That damn bastard, fucking cheater." As everybody in the stands would see this as they'd say, "His quirk, it's that strong? What? He has some type of gravity quirk?" As Deku's, well, gravity extended a pretty long range because it basically, what's the word I'm looking for? It basically forced everybody within like a smooth 5 mile radius down. And shit, that's pretty far if like you really think about it. Like, imagine having to walk like 5 miles. That's kind of far. So once Izuku basically forced them to the ground, and well, he was damn near at the finish line, they basically would have no chance of winning at this point. And once Izuku got at the finish line, he'd basically look up at Stars. He'd blow a kiss at her as she would blow a kiss back. As Izuku would say, "I told her I'd win." As they would then go on to the cavalry battle. Kirishima would want to be on Izuku's team, but Izuku would say, "Nah, I'm good. I'll do it by myself." As fucking, he'd look at Midnight and he'd ask, as she'd say, "Alright, I guess." As Deku, well, he'd have taken a ball of energy as he'd have thrown it up into the sky. It would have taken, the ball would have taken water, fire, and, earth, and it would have made 3 clones. As the ball would have came back down, as it would have separated into all 3 of the clones, as Deku would have said, well then, I'll need you guys' help to help me win this cavalry battle. As they'd say, yes sir. As they'd then hoist Deku up into their... They would then hoist Deku up onto their shoulders. As basically anybody that would come into contact with them would either get burnt, drenched, or would be wrapped in a pile of cement. As Deku would rack up hella points, not sharing with nobody except for Kirishima and his group, which would consist of Kirishima, Momo, Mina, and I'll say Jiro. As he'd have shared with them, as pretty much Bakugo would have rushed his shit, or tried to rush his shit again, as Deku would have said, not this time, you little bastard. You have yours coming. Just know, when it comes, well, you'll be dead. As Deku would then think to himself, oh, that's right. I can't kill him until I've killed his mom. So, what a pity. As Izuku would instantly, well, as soon as Bakugo rushed him, he would neck chop him out of the air. Like this, imagine this. This nigga Bakugo flying at Izuku full speed. Izuku dodged, like, Bakugo coming full speed. Izuku dodged, like, gracefully. As in that split second, he took his hand and chopped that nigga shit. As Bakugo would have fell to the ground as fucking Izuku would have laughed as he'd have said, weak bitch. His time would have ran out. As Todoroki would have been looking at Deku like, you fucking bastard. I'm Todoroki. My name is Shoto. Do you know who I am? I should have won this. I'm stronger than you. As Deku could basically sense this nigga thinking all of this shit. As he'd be like, damn nigga, okay, daddy issues. Get off my fucking tip. As he would just walk away from Todoroki, as Todoroki wouldn't be too pleased with this, as he'd have went up to Deku and he'd have grabbed his shoulder. Deku would have been like, I know this nigga did not just touch me. As he'd have slapped his fucking hand off of his shoulder, as he'd have looked at Todoroki and he'd backhand the shit out of him. And he'd say, if you ever fucking touch me again, I'll kill you. And that's a promise. As Izuku would have walked back to the waiting room, as now the time we've all been waiting for is about to begin. As, you know, your boy Izuku, he would be called up first to face Bakugo. Oh yes, Bakugo's his first opponent. As Deku would have smiled as he'd have said, it's time. It's finally time. As Bakugo would have said, time for what, you bitch? As Deku, well, yeah, this nigga went insane. His eyes would have turned a dark red, and black marks would have come upon his eyes as Deku would have said, it's time. I've been saving this power for you. I want you dead, and I want you to know this. I'm gonna kill you, then kill your mom, and all of your fucking goons. As everybody would be hearing this, as fucking Midnight would be saying, Izuku, what are you talking about? That would be very unhero-like of you. As Deku would have said, I don't give a damn. That bastard, he killed my mom. So I'm gonna teach him. I'm gonna teach him what happens when he messes with somebody that has divine power. As Midnight, well, she wouldn't be able to say go because, well, once Bakugo would have said shut up, Izuku would have disappeared from sight. As Deku would have slit, not his throat, he'd have slit Bakugo's arm, causing it to fall completely off, as Bakugo would fall to the ground in agony. As his mom would see this, as she'd say, Bakugo, as or she'd say Katsuki, because, well, that's his name, as she'd have ran down the stance, if she'd have jumped the fence, as the heroes would be trying to stop her, but, well, it'd be too late. She'd have reached the battlefield, as Midnight would have said, okay, Bakugo is disqualified for having his mother help him. But Deku would not be listening. This nigga did not care. He was out for blood revenge. This nigga, it was on his bucket list to wake up and kill Bakugo. His Star would have been looking at this as Deku would have already told her about what Bakugo had did to his mom. Well, his goons and Bakugo had done to his mom. As she basically would have thought to herself, he deserves this. That kid deserves everything he's about to get. As Deku would see fucking Bakugo's mom, Mitsuki, as Deku would have walked up to her, as he'd have taken his hand and he'd have grabbed her titty. As her whole face completely red instantly. As she'd have blushed. But before she could have said, what are you doing? Deku decapitated her. Her body would fall to the ground as her head would roll. Deku would then look at Bakugo, who would see his mom, well, dead. And mind you, Bakugo, well, he's the successor of All For One, not All For One, fucking One For All. So, well, this nigga kinda just got a huge boost in power, but that's not really nothing. As Bakugo, well, his eyes would have rolled to the back of his head. As he'd have been in complete rage. Bakugo would have fucking yelled, "You bastard!" As his explosions had gotten at least 50 times bigger. As he'd have rushed at Izuku, who would have been smiling. But everybody would have known that Izuku was pretty much fucked. But he wasn't. This nigga was gonna kill Bakugo at, like, all cost. And so, once fucking Bakugo got to Izuku, he tried to throw an explosion, but Deku would grab his arm, breaking it, as he'd instantly flip Bakugo, as this would be Bakugo's last arm, well, his only arm left that he would have, seeing that Deku kind of cut the other arm he had off. And, well, yeah, that's gone forever. As Bakugo would scream, as he'd say, fuck. As Bakugo, well, he would fall to the ground as he'd be agonizing. But Deku wouldn't care. He would then take his sword as he would look at Bakugo's bloody stub as he'd jam his sword right into it, making Bakugo's whole body fall limp. But he wouldn't be done there. Deku would continue to beat Bakugo until every bone in his body was completely broken. As he would then move on to pummeling Bakugo's face as Deku would be laughing maniacally as he'd say, "You fucking bastard. You deserve everything you're getting." As Deku would punch and punch and punch Bakugo's head in. As Deku would be using his gravity to enhance his punches. And, well, this would do devastating damage as he would continue punching Bakugo's head until there was nothing left. Bakugo's head was completely gone, and Deku was basically just punching the ground in pure anger that he had the audacity to kill his mother. As Deku would get up as he'd spit on the body as he'd say, "Looks like I win." Hold on, guys. Alright, guys, I'm back. But, yeah. Deku would look at Midnight, tell her to call the match as Bakugo was dead. He'd spit on Bakugo fucking dead corpse a few more times. As Deku would then leave the arena, his Star would follow behind as she'd say, "You know, you kinda went overboard there." As Deku would say, I don't care. That bastard deserved everything he just got. He killed my mom and tormented me along with those damn bastards that I'm gonna kill soon. I promise you, this world will change, and it will be by my hand. But guys, I'm gonna be leaving it off here because, well, my big brother just got home from the Navy. So, yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye!